All right. I thought about making this whole video, a good YouTube setup and everything, but I'm just going to talk as I kind of live my life and kind of do things. So recently I paid off about $13,000 credit card debt, which is fantastic. I did it in about 15 months. So about a year, a little over a year, but I did it while living my life. I went to Europe this year for the first time, or 2025. I went to Europe the first time. I went to Europe twice. I went to 3 countries. I went on 2 cruises, completely enjoyed my life, had a great year with my girlfriend, all while being able to pay off $13,000 worth of credit card debt. And in this video, I'm just gonna be talking about how I did it and how you can too. Sorry, I got my factory meal going. What's this one? We got maple gravy chicken with butternut squash and green beans. So while that's cooking, I'm gonna talk about my story a little bit. So how did this start? How did I get into this massive credit card debt being 23 years old? So it started in college, just like how most people kind of end up getting their first credit cards is in college. So the first credit card that I got was a Discover Ed credit card, probably the first one that most people get. You don't really need a credit score for it, and you get it. And I spent pretty reasonably on it, as much as you should as a college student when you're not making a whole lot of money. You put your subscriptions on it, food and whatnot, and that sort of stuff. And then I was pretty financially disciplined. And things changed when I kind of got into the personal finance TikTok, and everyone's talking about, credit card points, free travel, all that stuff. I eventually applied for a Amex Gold, which was like the pinnacle just because you can get 4 times points on restaurants, on groceries, and you get points when you book on the Amex portal. So I applied, and sure enough, I got it. I'll throw screenshots and stuff as I kind of talk about this stuff, but I got it. I was super stoked for it. I was like, let's go. And I did my due diligence. I had financial discipline for a little bit, and then things got a little bit out of hand with my spending. So during that year, we went to Nashville, we went to LA, we went on a bunch of different trips. I can't remember off the top of my head on them, but anyways, I was spending a lot on that card, and I was working part-time in a restaurant while I was full-time in school, so I wasn't making enough money to really keep up with how much I was spending, and things kind of piled up. And when I graduated from college, I didn't have a set job. I didn't have a set paycheck coming out. So for the first 4 or 5 months after college, I was unemployed. I wasn't making money. But that debt that I had that rolled over kept piling up and piling up. And the Amex interest rate, I had a little bit left over in my Discover, was between 20 and 25%. So you can do the math on how much that grows month over month in interest. And I'll post a screenshot. By December of 2024, I had about $13,000 of credit card debt, which is the most that I've had. And so I had a full plan for the year of 2025 to fully pay off that debt. And this recording is April, but I paid it off at the very end of March of 2026. I paid off all that debt. And so how did I do it? How did I pay off that debt in a pretty decent amount of time while also living my life and not going insane? So I did it through a means of financial discipline, strategic allocation of my funds, which I'll go into in a second, which is a whole system that I've read through within a couple different books that I've kind of culminated together, in addition to increasing my income. So Dave Ramsey, who we all know through personal finance, he's the personal finance guru, says the greatest lever you have on wealth creation is your income, which when starting out is 100% right, which I mean, not just starting out, but for all the time. The greatest lever to wealth creation is your income. So, like I said, when I was just starting out, I was completely unemployed. I wasn't making a single dollar, and I got whatever job I could. I got a job working valet, literally anything I can grab. And so I had that, and I applied to other restaurant jobs because I took skills that I already had. All right, I worked at a restaurant all throughout college. Worked my way up from server assistant to bar back to bartender, making decent money. And I took those skills and I applied to different places. I found a connection that I had, a former fraternity brother who worked at a really nice restaurant, and I got put at the very bottom of the totem pole there. I already had serving experience, I already had bartending experience, but they were like, no, the only opportunity or the only option we have is server assistant, which you'll be bussing tables, you'll be running food, you'll be at the bottom of the food chain. And I was like, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take anything I can get. And it started out pretty bad. Like I wasn't making a whole lot of money. And eventually over time, I learned how to properly allocate my funds so that when my income increased, I was able to put in more towards my debt while also being able to enjoy my life. And so how did I do that? So first I want to talk about where I learned this, because there are a few ways that I kind of really learned this. 2 books that, actually no, 3, that really taught me this as I was kind of going through this. Throughout this time I was reading a ton. I was trying to soak in as much information as I could. So the 3 books that I read that really solidified how to build this process for me was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker was one of them. The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason, and Myron Golden's book, From the Trash Man to the Cash Man. And what happens is that when you don't have proper financial discipline or financial systems in place, when you increase your income, you don't have the systems in place to deal with that increase in flow. So when you have bad financial habits, when you're not making a lot, you're going to have bad financial habits when you do make a lot. So building that financial habit when I wasn't making a crazy amount of money was super important. I used this app called Capital, which automatically takes money that's invested or put into your checking account. It automatically divvies it into a separate account for you. So it's completely automated. And how I had it allocated was, one account was dedicated towards credit card debt and financial freedom. The other was for education and increasing my earning capacity. And another was for fun and discretionary and whatever I wanted. And you can divvy it up however you want, but I always wasn't sure how much to put in each, but I learned from The Richest Man in Babylon that you should set 10% towards a minimum towards your financial freedom. You should aim for higher than 20. That's what I did, is I started with 20. And then, so I went from 20% for credit card debt, 10% for education, 10% for fun. So you can do that. Or you can do fixed amounts. So you only like $50 a month towards fun, or, $500 a month for credit card debt. You can do it fixed, but I would recommend percentage based, because as your income increases, then the amount you put towards your debt, your fun money, and your education money also increases. So you want to keep you want to fuel the investment related stuff. So like paying off debts, spending on yourself to make more on a percentage base, while your expenses, keep it fixed. That's what I did, because I lowered my expenses and I got promoted with where I worked, pretty much doubled how much I made. And it allowed me to increase my credit card debt allocation from 20% to 30%. So I was able to live off of 60% of my income while saving 40% of it, using 30%. How did I do it? No, yeah, it was about 60%. So how I had it was, I had 30% allocated for credit card debt, 10% for education, and 5% for fun. That was my split for it. But that's what I did, and I just worked like a mother trucker for 15 months, while also being able to have a decent amount put in my fun money that I can use for trips. I leveraged my job with cash tips. I set that aside no matter what. And I used that either, like my last payment towards my Amex credit card, I used solely my cash tips. I had about $2,000 I saved up, and I put that towards it. But in the meantime, across 15 months, I saved a couple grand in cash tips that I also put towards fun money, towards trips. How I had it set was all my, the money that gets deposited into my account, like every Friday, is the money that I use to live on, while the cash tips that I get is all pure profit, pure extra. And I can use that towards fun. I use that for my trip to Europe that I did with my girlfriend, which was awesome. I had tax return money that a portion of I used to pay off my Discover card, and another portion I used to fully fund a cruise. So getting creative with your financing is really important, because it allows you to strategically park money where you need it to. So any extra money that's outside your paycheck, you should use for either extreme strategy or extreme fun. So the tax return example that I used, you could use it to get ahead on your payments. So like your credit card debt, student loan debt that you have, or towards fun. That's exactly what I did. And keeping to a system as opposed to changing it will help. Like stay with consistency over intensity. because you can live off half your income and the other half go ham towards debt. You can try that and see how it goes, but you need to build a habit and you need to build the discipline, because once you have that system in place where you're paying 30% or you're allocating 30% towards credit card debt, once you have that credit card debt paid, keep that system going, and you can keep that 30% going towards an emergency fund or a 6 to 12 month savings account or an investment portfolio that you can build over time much better than doing it at 10 to 15% of your total income, which will be half to almost 75% of what you did prior. Build the discipline and build the consistency, and over time, you'll pay off everything you want. Just that's really what it came down to. Oh, and then the way that I did it, the way that I kind of distinguished what to pay off was using the snowball method, which is from Dave Ramsey, where you make a list of all your debts, smallest to largest. You figure out when everything's due, the minimum payments for everything, and the total balances, and you pay off smallest debt to largest debt. That's what I did. As I first started, I made the mistake of starting with the highest interest, which is called the avalanche method, which still works, but you don't build the habit. So I tried paying off my Amex first, which didn't really go well. And it just took so long. And I swapped into going fully on paying off my Discover card, which had about 3,500 in there. And then went to my Amex, went fully ham on that. You focus on the lowest balance while paying off the minimums on everything else. So including student loans, all your debt, that sort of stuff. Negotiate for lower payments, because it's possible. I never knew that was possible when I was kind of in this journey, but especially with student loans, you can call them and be like, yo, like, I need lower payments because I can't afford this. And they'll work with you because they don't want your account to be charged off. They want to keep that debt in-house so they can make that income. That's how they make their money, is through interest. And they don't want it to be charged off because they lose that opportunity. So they'll be willing to work with you if you lower your monthly payments and pay them off smallest to largest, build that habit, build the system in place to allocate funds, and do everything in your power to lower your expenses and increase your earning capacity and your earning potential. Get a second job, get a restaurant job like I did. Like I had a restaurant job while also doing valet, which worked in their own sense, but sometimes it may be better just to double down on what you're already doing and focus on how you can get better with that, how you can increase your income by 20%, 50%, maybe even a raise doubles your salary, which is fantastic. If you have that system in place and you double your salary, it's game over from there. That's what I did, and it was game over. So that's how I did it. That's how I paid off $13,000 of credit card debt within 15 months. I could have paid it sooner, but I wanted to live my life. I went on great trips this year, and I'm excited to go on a lot more this year too. We're planning on going to Puerto Rico beginning of May, and then we're going to the Caribbean end of this month. So I'm super excited for it. And yeah, I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.